Leo, this is your tarot reading for June. For all zodiac signs so far, June has been an interesting month. A month in which I think things don't get resolved. Despite there being many interesting and maybe painful, at other times joyous things going on. And I think yours is no exception. Bottom right hand corner, the recent past, you had an important decision to make. A decision in which there seemed to be no rights or wrongs, or equally right and equally wrong. Overall, the middle card, the energy there is that of rebirth and great hope. So it's a good reading in those terms at the very least. I think you did take a decision, and the decision gave you a very clear sense of direction, a sense of purpose, and indeed a degree of urgency about what you're doing. Normally I'd see that as very positive, but certainly this month it feels that there is such change that having firm ideas might not be the right way to be. In the future, we see you as a Knight of Swords, the most ferocious knight, fearless, bold, but can jump to the wrong conclusions. You've certainly been restricting yourself. I think I might know what that is, and we'll come to it later. It's because I'm a Leo that I can interpret that. But you've been restricting what you're doing, and that leads to the outcome. What would change the outcome is more change, major changes, and with it some good luck, I believe. The outcome is you maybe manifesting wealth, certainly looking for wealth, going in search of wealth. Fascinating. Now, I'm a Leo, so excuse me as I go into the interpretation. I'm going to have to interpret it through my own experience. The overall energy which runs through this reading for June is that of the star. This has to be incredibly positive, incredibly positive. It's positive in terms of your views. You have great hope, great hope. And that in itself will bring good fortune to you, this great hope. It's also something of a rebirth for you. Certainly, I've been feeling an emergence from some of the darkness that has gone on in my life for so long. And in terms of material things, I think I'm beginning to change the corner. It's still a bit of a quagmire, but I do feel that a big change has occurred, and I'm looking forward to it. Maybe it's not happening as quickly as I might anticipate, but that's the paranormal for you, you know. A time of great hope, and I need to recognise this as I interpret it, all the other energies. In the past, you had an important decision to make. This is the recent past. Seemingly, it was very difficult to make. There didn't seem to be a right or wrong, or a wrong or right even. You didn't feel you had all the information with which to make that decision. But nevertheless, I believe you have. I think it was a decision between spirituality and materialism. And to a certain degree, I think you've come down in favour of materialism. Even though in your heart it's saying that you should embark on a more spiritual journey. I think you've let the head get the better of you, but I'm not certain that that's an incorrect decision. Especially if you're still understanding of the heart. You know, I think it's about, there's elements of manifesting wealth here. And I think it's coming to you. And when it comes to you, it's how you deal with that that's important, rather than necessarily the wealth itself being the wrong thing. So if you deal with it in a spiritual way, you know, I don't think it matters. I also feel that taking that decision has been somewhat liberating for you, because you've been stymied for so long. You know, you've needed a firmer sense of direction, and now you've got it with a vengeance. You know, you've got everything aligned, you know what you're doing, you know where you're going, and you know why, and you're moving with a degree of vigour. Now, I would normally see that very positively, but we have been getting messages from the universe that we live in times of such unprecedented change, that this sense of direction is maybe not the right thing to be doing. I don't get that impression with you because, as I say, I think in taking the decision, it's like a temporary decision, as it were. You've not abandoned the other option. So this is just you achieving what you need to achieve around a goal, if you like, rather than a strategy. Yes, and that's why we've got this energy and not the chariot energy. Yeah. The future sees you bold, brave, fearless. Comes from that sense of direction, I believe. You are prone to getting hold of the wrong end of the stick with this energy. But again, I'm not certain that it matters. I think you've been stymied for so long that it's just positive that you have this sort of sense of direction. You know where you're going. You're able to do something at last that you felt unable to for so long. So I don't think this is negative, providing you understand that there is another side to everything. You can get things wrong. Now, the energy that is leading to the outcome is your self-restraint. Now, this isn't necessarily self-restraint in a good way. This is you restraining yourselves from doing things that maybe you should be doing, but perhaps you're fearful of something. If I look at my own life, there are many things that I've not done over the last few years that probably I should have done, but I'm somewhat fearful of. You see, my status in Indonesia, despite being married to an Indonesian lady, is that of a temporary resident. And it means that really I'm not allowed to work or to make money in Indonesia. So that's a massive constraint on me. And indeed has led to me leading a quite frugal life for a long time. Clearly people don't follow these laws, and there are certain ways around them, but not simple ways, not inexpensive ways. You have to be fairly certain that you're going to make a lot of money for it to be worth looking at the alternatives. And people are being, well, regularly, very regularly, deported for infringement of these laws. So I've been constraining myself, when perhaps a better idea would be go out and make the money and worry about compliance later. That isn't to say forget about the compliance, but worry about it later. What changes the outcome is you recognising that the world is changing, or at least your world is changing. And with that is coming some luck. Now, this is a time of many major changes in the world, within our lives. And this is yet another that's coming to you. And if you can recognise that massive change, then you can also begin to change the outcomes that are out there for you. It literally is as simple as that. And of course, if we look at the central theme, it's one of hope, it's one of rebirth. So you're going to get a sign that this change is happening, and you're being gently nudged to change with it. Will you? The outcome isn't a bad outcome at all. So I think you're changing anyway, which is what this hope is all about. Because I see you looking for or manifesting wealth. So, I think you've been restricting yourself. If like me, you've been restricting yourself for an awful long time. And I think now you're saying, well, the time has come where I need some reward for all that I've forfeited. And I'm going to manifest what I deserve. I don't think you're doing it in a selfish way at all. I think it's more just seeing the greed and selfishness around you. And not saying I want to join in, but saying, hang on a minute. My restraining myself is only feeding others. Others who see themselves, because of their wealth, as better than me. So I think this is about you really stepping into your own. I think it's very positive. But what I want to do is get a bit of clarification on my interpretation of this. Now, I'm going to seek clarification on these self-restraints, these constraints. Why are you doing it? I mean, I've told you why I am, but maybe there's more to it than simply me, First card we have is one of learning, training. So it's almost that you've been in an apprenticeship in order to earn money. The second one is one of temperance. Maybe like me in the past, you have been wealthy, but didn't use it that wisely. And the final one is strength, saying that, you've got this wonderful inner strength. You can achieve this. So let's look at these. Now remember, we're clarifying these self-restraints. And the first card is one of training or learning new skills that are going to help you in the future. Maybe it's been a bit laborious as well, but you've stuck at it. What are these new skills? Well, it's probably better to illustrate with my case. So if you take me, I've been, two things. One is I've been learning about mysticism, learning how to break out of my thoughts being controlled by others. And of course, my reaction to the legal framework I find myself is allowing the thoughts of others to dominate my behaviour. So that could be one part of it, breaking free of that. But at a more mundane level, of course, I have this channel and I've been putting a hell of a lot of time. I mean, there's no way it's just, to be perfectly honest, I've had $100 off it so far. And I put in years and years of work. I can see that my vlogs are getting more professional. But I'm not necessarily getting more success as a result. Partially, I can see that YouTube itself, their model is breaking up. They're no longer getting the advertising revenues. But the strange thing is that although I don't seem to be getting the numbers, just recently my potential revenue, and we're talking of the difference between $5 and $10 a week. It's not anything to cheer about. But my potential revenue has been going up. I can't understand it. If I look at the statistics, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It just doesn't compute at all. But clearly I've been learning, and clearly I've been putting the time in. So I have faith that I'm about to make a major breakthrough. But the data doesn't seem to point to me where, so it is an act of faith. But yeah, you've been putting in the work, for certain, Leo. Now the next card is one of temperance. And I'll let you into a secret. I have been reasonably wealthy in the past, but was unhappy. And I'm quite happy to, well, I say reasonably, not that wealthy, but reasonably. But I was unhappy. So to a certain degree, my self-constraints are because I don't want to be unhappy again. Now, I'm making it sound like I'm George Best. You may know that famous quote. I spent a lot of money on booze, birds and fast cars. The rest I just squandered. Now, that certainly wasn't me. In fact, I saved most of it and gave most of it away. But I wasn't happy with my wealth. And I think that has been holding me back. And I think also I need to recognise that when I'm wealthy again, that I must be more temperate in how I use that money. Just because I've got a lot of money, don't allow everybody to take from me. Don't be generous to those who don't deserve it. That's not to say don't be generous at all, but don't be so generous. I don't know. I think I've misread what the strength card is saying. I don't think the strength card is saying you're strong enough to get through things. I think it's saying that you were strong enough to deal with the frugality of how your life has been. So you were strong enough to deal with the self-restraint. And if I look at my life, now there's no way I'm trying to make out that, I was born in a hole in the middle of the road, or a septic tank or whatever it might be, no way. I mean, I grew up in Shropshire, largely round Shrewsbury, beautiful, beautiful town in a beautiful part of England, on the Welsh border, And my parents were lower middle class, not wealthy, but lower middle class. But there have been many times in our lives when we didn't have a great deal of money. And many of the people around us didn't, it wasn't a terrible time, but I'm certainly used to making do and mending. And then when I went to university, it was somewhat frugal, So, in fact, okay, I made a lot of money from my businesses, but when I started them, I didn't have a lot of money. So, I'm quite used to dealing with times of not being that wealthy, not having an abundance, and I'm quite capable of dealing with it. So I think that's what it was about. I was prepared to accept self-restraint because I knew I could cope with it. But I'm feeling this new lease of life now. That change must come. Leo, this seems to be a lovely reading. It's saying to me that your time has come. And if you've been listening to other people's tarot readings, they were suggesting that your time was coming April or March, April, you know, and I'm saying, well, it's June that it's coming. Strange, isn't it? But, you know, time is a human construct, you know, take whichever one you like. Why is the change coming? Well, you're full of hope. You've had something of a rebirth. You were faced with a choice in the recent past. I think it was a choice between materialism and spirituality, and I think to a certain degree you've chosen materialism. Not that you're abandoning spirituality, but you're realising now is the time to change, that you've lived a very frugal lifestyle for some time, and now that needs to change, because you need to change your outlook. You need to feel wealthy in every sense of the word in order to be more spiritual. And I think this choice that you've made has resulted in a newfound direction. You sort of know what you're doing. That doesn't mean to say you won't change it again. It's just now is the time to secure some bounty, as it were, for yourself. And the reason why you've been living quite a frugal lifestyle is you've actually chosen it. You don't think you have, but you have. You've restricted what you're doing on purpose, partially because you've been learning about things, probably about the world, maybe about how to make money, but, you know, I think about the world. But also there's a sort of a temperance there, that you've not wanted to lead a hedonistic but unhappy lifestyle. And the other thing is, you're strong, you've got a wonderful inner strength, and you know you can deal with this. However, I think you have had enough, and you're going to go off in search of wealth, manifesting it, I think, and as every indication is going to come. What would change this is maybe the universe steps in and you get these major changes happen anyway, and you get what you would have manifested without fully manifesting it. It just seems to happen to you. It's as though luck is now on your side, Leo. I don't think this is an end of these episodes, but I think it's a very, very positive new beginning for you.